Well, hi, everyone. I'm Daniel Williams, Senior Editor at MGMA, host of the MGMA Podcast Network. Today, we are spotlighting our most prestigious MGMA award, and that is our MGMA Lifetime Achievement Award. And it is such an honor to share with you who our Lifetime Achievement Award winner is. If you've been part of MGMA, you may have heard this name before, because our guest today and our Lifetime Achievement Award winner is Dave Gans. Now, Dave is a retired senior fellow of industry affairs with MGMA. He's also a member of the board of directors for the Accreditation Association for Ambulatory Healthcare. And for decades, Dave has been one of those most trusted voices in medical practice management. We're going to get into that story on Dave about his mentorship, his role at MGMA, and all kinds of other things. I don't want to give it all away right now. Dave, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Daniel.
Yeah.
I'm just pleased and so honored to be here.
Well, it is an honor for me to get to interview you here. You have also been an MGMA podcast host over the years. You focused on executives, and that is just one inkling of things that you've done related to MGMA. So let's talk first. We're going to cover as much ground as we can today. As you and I were joking, we probably could have done about an 8-hour podcast or a podcast series talking about your history here.
This is only part one.
This is part one of the series. So let's talk about that Achievement Award first. What have you been floating? What has it been like since you learned that you had been honored with this?
I'm overwhelmed. Yeah. Literally. I had a wake-up call a week ago Tuesday to inform me of the award. I was unaware of anything prior. I've admired healthcare leaders who were the previous recipients, and I never imagined that one day I would be among them. And now I've been included in the company. It's humbling and it's meaningful. Especially honored to receive the award as an MGMA staff member because I know the previous recipients, and they were distinguished practice executives, healthcare leaders, physicians, and I'm just so pleased to be among their company. I want to thank MGMA, its board of directors, and the membership for the recognition. I am, again, overwhelmed and joyful that my contribution has been recognized, and I want to continue to help the association any way I can. Now, my only sadness is that my wife, Joan, is not here to share the moment. We were married 49 years when she passed away 4 years ago. She was my greatest supporter, and I know she would have been so proud to see MGMA honor my contributions.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. I know you and I have talked about your wife before, and this is a very human experience here to be part of that. And so,
Well, I'd be tearing up on the stage.
Exactly.
Yep.
Exactly. Thank you so much for your vulnerability and your humanity here.
Thank you.
Really appreciate that. So, Dave, at MGMA, you are considered an institution here. And on a personal note, I interviewed with MGMA 7 years ago. And when I was preparing for my interview to be hired at MGMA, I went out and started doing research. And one of the things that I landed on was in a podcast interview you had done where you were providing the history of MGMA. You were going back, I believe, you can correct me on this because you are the MGMA historian, I think all the way back to 1926. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Tell us about that. Okay. How in the world did you become sort of this MGMA historian?
Well, first, I'm going to start. MGMA was founded in 1926.
Okay.
22 managers got together in Madison, Wisconsin, and they had such an enjoyable time. They learned a lot. They met people who had like experiences. They decided they needed to do the same thing next year, and they did.
Yeah.
And the year after that. And that eventually became the Medical Group Management Association. So the 2025 Leadership Conference is the organization's 99th year. Well, I came to MGMA in 1979 as a graduate student intern. So I've been a witness to MGMA's history for half of its history. And I've had the opportunity to personally know many of the founding members and also the leaders who made the organization what it is today. So this was the opportunity. I've been part of its history.
Yeah.
And I like to say I know the high points and maybe some points where we have had to struggle, and we've overcome those challenges. I also know where those where those few bones are buried. The skeletons in the closet.
Right.
That says, okay, well, some things are best forgotten.
That's right.
All right, but we need to celebrate what we do have, and we have a great history in the organization.
Yeah. Well, I don't think the history of MGMA can be written without a couple of chapters. Dave Gans' name on those chapters. So let's talk about that. When did you first hear about MGMA? You said you came in as a student intern. What was that introduction to MGMA?
Okay. Well, my connection to MGMA came almost by chance.
Okay.
All right. My first career was I was in the United States Army in the Medical Service Corps, and I had 10 years of active duty. And I was, at the time, stationed at Fitzsimmons Medical Center in Aurora, Colorado. And I had looked at my long-term plans. My wife and I talked about what we wanted to be for our career and our family. And we thought, well, this was time for me to go back to school. So I applied to the University of Colorado to the graduate program in health administration, and I was accepted. So I left active duty, remained in the Army Reserve. So I had a parallel career for 31 years in the military, retiring in December 2000 as a colonel in the Medical Service Corps, Army Reserve, and having had just a parallel career, but also one that gave me great perspective into care delivery and managing physicians and clinicians and how they can best deliver high-quality patient care. Now, but my military experience said, I really worked in a group practice. So I share this interest with the program director because the program had a requirement. It was a much more traditional program than what you see in today's education, that where we did a 3-month summer internship and 2 9-month, years of class.
Right.
And but Dr. Lee Kaiser, the program director, encouraged me to contact MGMA. He says, there's a small organization located on South Colorado Boulevard that may be of interest. Well, it was.
I'll say.
Yeah, and I'm deeply grateful to Dr. Mary Alice Krill, who was the director of research at the time, and Hal Prink, who was actually the person who hired me. And I was an intern in June 1979. Following that summer, I continued as a full-time student. I worked part-time at MGMA. I attended my first MGMA annual conference in 1979 in San Francisco at my expense.
Wow. I
went I ended up working for staff because I was on the staff, but I was there to get the experience as a student on what is this organization and what is group practice. And that convinced me on group practice as a career choice. Okay, March 1980, there was a job opportunity that in the MGMA Center for Research to manage a grant from the W.K. Kellogg Foundation that was to develop a financial management handbook for medical groups who are going to be involved in capitation contracts, because capitation and the whole concept of prepaid care was new at the time, and organizations needed to understand what did they need to do. How can they make this care delivery model work for their organization and to be successful? So I had that opportunity and then continued to have the added responsibility of bringing the MGMA surveys in-house and taking full responsibility to conduct the MGMA surveys and the data products that it developed.
Wow. No, I didn't realize you started on that data side so soon in the career.
Day one. Actually, on my internship, earlier in the year, the organization had collected data on academic practices,
right,
but didn't know what to do with it. So one of my responsibilities was to take completed surveys, questions in paper, and analyze them. Well, I key entered the data into key punch cards at the state-of-the-art technology.
Right.
Analyzed the information, wrote the report, and people thought, well, if he could do that, he could do the other surveys, and do them well. Well, that was how I started.
That is incredible. So in the military, did you have a background in any kind of data analysis, or is it just a happy convergence here that got you there?
Well, actually, I had a financial background.
Okay.
I was trained as a logistics officer, but at one time my responsibility included managing the military. The term is called a stock fund, which at the time was a $10 million fund to account for the expenditures at the Fitzsimmons Medical Center and all the equipment and supplies that were used. So I had a background that dealt with finance and financing and managing large budgets, which contributed to, and of course, a lot of the work, most of that at the time was done literally on a Frieden calculator, mechanical, because this predated computer systems that were used other than in the mainframe environment. So this was a different world at the time.
Wow. You have seen so much change in technology in healthcare over the course of your career. But I want to go back to that data analysis, the benchmarking. When I started back in 2018, so that just kind of dates it there, you were already known as the go-to guy in data analysis, benchmarking. You'd already written a book on benchmarking. Yep. Talk about that, how you not only took it from, as you said, from day one, but then continued to evolve MGMA's role really in healthcare and practice management as far as being a company that's known for its data.
Right. Well, I had the responsibility the first few years literally by myself to manage the surveys. Yeah. Well, it was a smaller environment, and fewer data products at the time. Yeah. I had the opportunity to hire our first full-time employee, to deal with surveys, and then we expanded into a department. And as my career evolved with MGMA, my jobs changed. I was the first director for what we now call the Data Solutions Group. And so I was responsible at the time. We'd created the first compensation and production survey for physicians. We took the management salary and compensation survey to new levels, and of course evolved the cost and revenue survey on practices, and developed surveys in for other groups as well. We also created looking at how do some practices perform better than others, and we created a report that looked at the performance and practices of successful groups. How do organizations gain their success, and what differentiates some practices from others who may be in the same environment but have different results? So it was an evolution over the years that changed. Also, in a benchmarking role, I had the opportunity, as you said, I co-authored a book with Greg Feltenberger, MGMA member.
That's right.
And that we looked at on benchmarking, and the book focused on benchmarking. Our theme that throughout the book was good data yields good decisions. And understanding how your practice compares to its peers is the first step to understanding your strengths and weaknesses. Then you can use under that understanding to take your most valuable resource, which is with the practice administrator's time and the time of its physicians, to get the best results. So you can most effectively improve the organization, knowing where you stand compared to others, and where your own organization is, how it is changing over time, which is that whole concept of benchmarking.
Yeah. Share an example then, if you can, of a practice who is taking these benchmarking tools and processes and seen success with it. I would love to hear one of these stories.
Well, we have interviewed practices over the years asking, what do you do different? What did you do? And one of my best examples I can give, there was an organization, it happened to be in Salt Lake City, Utah, that had some crises. And so the practice administrator and had talked with his physicians and says, we need to look where we are, what we're doing, and came to the MGMA data, did a internal assessment comparing the information, realized where they had problems, and then utilized some of the reports we'd created, the success stories, which we still do.
That's right.
Saying, what contributes to success. So they read the success stories. They did it as a group, with the administrator, and had a team of some of his staff, but also some of the nursing clinicians and a couple of the providers, to say, what can we learn from this? Yeah. And they modeled changes in their organization, and they said, in a year's time, we made progress. In 2 years' time, we were among the best. So it was a great example of using information from other organizations and taking that information, applying it in their practice, and getting the results that they had hoped.
Wow. All right. We've talked a lot about the data side, the benchmarking side, but one of the things that strikes me about you, and from the very first time I ever met you, is how compassionate you are for other people, how giving of your time. So when I started, I keep using me as a reference because I want to make this personal as well, of what kind of person you are. I started in May of 2018, and I asked my boss, Andy Swanson, at the time, I said, what should I do? And he said, go shadow some people at MGMA. Go downstairs and shadow Dave Gans for a little while. We had set up an appointment, went down to your workspace down there on the first floor, and you may or may not remember this, but you were preparing for a presentation. You were a co-presenter, and you were walking the person step by step, very patiently. You were fielding questions from them. I don't know who you presented with in 2018, but
there were many.
There were many. So in this particular case, y'all were going through a slideshow, a PowerPoint, and you were just so patient with your time, and you were the same way with me. I had 1,000 questions for you, and you were ready to answer 1,001. What is it about you that has that mentoring capacity where you really do like to be with people and mentor them?
Well, thank you. Well, being honest, helping others and witnessing their success has been one of the most rewarding aspects of the career. Knowing that I've been able to influence and help people solve their issues and solve their problems and make better decisions is a tremendous reward. I've never considered myself too busy to help someone, even though it meant extending my workday. Yeah. I remember conversations with our HR vice president about the workday at the association. I said, well, I could probably cut back to 45 to 50 hours. He says, well, sometimes you do what needs to be done for the organization. Over the years, many of the people I've supported have returned the favor. They reinforced to me that how MGMA is a collaborative and reciprocal organization. What you give comes back to you. And I've always felt the time and energy I invested helping others brought far greater rewards to me than I could have achieved otherwise.
Yeah. You and I drove over here together to the studio here at Brand Viva. We were over at MGMA, and we were chatting because we had both been on the road a little bit You were in Chicago. I was in Dallas. We were just crisscrossing at other organizations where we were speaking and interacting with people. What has that role been like, to be on boards, to be a public speaker, to hear the voices of other people? Talk about what that's been like for you in your career, and to be able to learn from others and to help others.
That external perspective is critical, because we don't work in isolation, that we don't live in isolation. We live in this broader environment, and you need to get exposure to what others are doing. Also, you need to understand the issues that they may have. Travel does that. And the opportunity to be at meetings with other people, to share their interpretation of what the speakers may be saying, is an important element of learning as well, because you gain from their perspective. Right. This is the value of collaboration and the value of getting others' insights into what they see and how they plan to respond in the future. So I gain from that. Yeah. And you do that by being outside of your normal comfort zone.
Mm-hmm. Let's see. We've got time for a couple more questions.
Okay.
And as you and I were joking again that we could spend about 8 hours just doing part one. So I'm going to be very choosy with what I ask you about. So let's think about those practice administrators who are listening now. And I want you to just think back and think about what advice you would give them, because there's so many decisions to make. And even though technology makes things easier, it also kind of speeds things up and can make them more complex as well. So what is some advice you would dispense to those practice leaders and things you would want to share with them?
Well, number one, healthcare is changing.
Yeah.
That is not a surprise.
No.
And it's changing faster than ever.
Right.
Okay. New technologies, innovative applications are solving old problems. Oh, and they're creating new ones too.
That's true.
Practice leaders, they need to be aware of what is happening in our industry, how outside organizations are responding to current issues. Now, one of the key elements of benchmarking is learning from out-of-industry organizations. In other words, how do they solve problems? And then you can apply their solutions to to our environment in healthcare and practice management. Healthcare in general and group practice specifically is in a critical time. Increased costs. We know that. We have staff shortages. Okay. We have lower payments. This is a crisis. All right. We cannot solve tomorrow's problems with today's response, or yesterday's response especially. So we have to look how do we innovate? Okay. Technologies like AI have the potential to reduce costs, improve patient service, and enhance outcomes, only if we apply them in the appropriate way. How do we do that? Okay. We don't have an easy answer, but this is what we have to think about. How do we apply new technologies, new concepts to solve our current issues? And we'll get new ones, which keeps our business, keeps us very active and saying, right, what are we going to do? We have to solve new problems. All right. Yeah. Amid the changes, we don't want to lose sight of the core purpose. Why are we here? Okay. Why do group practices come to work? Why do our physicians and our clinicians, why are they in the office? They're to provide high quality care and focus on the needs of the patient. Mm-hmm. So you cannot get lost for the so-called losing the sight of the forest because we're in the midst of the trees, right, and in the underbrush.
Yeah.
Okay. Practice administrators have the critical role of managing systems in the organization. Okay. They need to manage the systems to optimize patient care. Okay. Allow the practice providers to focus their attention on the patient. That is something we don't want to forget. We want to focus on how can we provide the best quality of care to our patients. How can we provide a safe working environment for our staff? And how to reward our providers for the work that they're doing. It's not an easy task, but that's our role.
Love that. I love that. All right, the last question, and this is a fun one. One of the interesting things about you, we were talking about this on our ride over, is that you stay mentally active. You were in a board meeting in Chicago just a couple of days ago, but you also love adventures. And every time I bump into you, you're either planning another adventure or you're just back from another adventure. So you have something coming up. That's why we moved up this interview. What's going on?
Well, today is Tuesday.
That's right.
All right. In 2 days, I'm on a flight to Copenhagen.
Right.
And I am about ready to leave with friends and on a 14-day bike ride. Wow. We're going to ride from Copenhagen to Oslo, Norway. Right. And I've always felt that the best way to experience a country is from the perspective of a bicycle seat. The pace is appropriate. Your eye, when you're traveling in car at 70 miles an hour, you see the asphalt ahead of you, and the cars around you, but you're not looking at anything else because you have to be safe. Yeah. On a bicycle, it's a slower pace. Right. And if you want to stop, and smell the roses, the roses are right there. Yeah. It's an easy stop. So this will be my 27th bike trip in Europe. Okay. I've cycled throughout Italy and Spain and Portugal, Greece, and France. And this will be my first time in Scandinavia. Okay. So I'm looking forward to the trip. My most recent trip was in June, and I had a wonderful vacation in Champagne and Burgundy provinces of France. It was wonderful cycling. We had good weather. Cycling through rural roads and vineyards cannot be beat. Yeah. Great scenery, good food, fine wine. It was a wonderful vacation. I'm looking forward to doing it again.
I have to follow up. When you're on a 14-day bike ride, do you pedal up to a hotel or an Airbnb, or do you sleep under the stars? What do you do?
No, this is civilized. That this is with a bike tour group called, the name of the group is called Experience Plus. They've been in the business for 50 years. Okay. And they are well familiar with what the American tourist wants. Okay. So we stay in good hotels. Nice. We have fine meals. Okay. We have full support of our guides and a van to help with your luggage. Sure. And should you find that last hill too much, or if it's raining too hard, you can always get in the van and go to the next place. Oh, that's wonderful. And each night, you're going to have people help take care of you.
Yeah. That is wonderful. Well, you've been taking care of us and the MGMA family for 43 years. Where are we in the years here?
Well, all right. Well, I actually had I retired from MGMA in 2022. Okay. All right. So I have basically 42 years of employment. Okay. 1 year of being an intern. Right. And I've now been retired for 4 years. Okay. Well, I still continue to work for MGMA in the context. I still provide my column that I do the data mine to the MGMA Connection. I've been able to serve in other ways for the association. So I look at I no longer work because I'm not getting paid. That doesn't mean I'm still not That's it. assisting the organization fulfill its goals. Yeah. Yeah. And I look forward to continuing to do so.
Yeah. Well, Dave, we are grateful for you and grateful for all the work and just the joy you've brought to MGMA and its members. So thank you so much.
Thank you. This has been a most enjoyable experience and a good interview. And I want to thank MGMA, its board of directors, and the membership for the recognition. I am, again, overwhelmed and joyful that my contribution has been recognized. And I want to continue to help the association any way I can.
Well, thank you for that. So, everyone, Dave Gans is our 2025 Lifetime Achievement Award winner. He will be recognized during the general session at the 2025 MGMA Leaders Conference in Orlando. That is going to be Monday, September 29th from 9:30 to 11 a.m. That's Eastern time. That's where Orlando is in that Eastern time zone. So we look forward to celebrating his remarkable contributions to the field of medical practice management there. So if you want to learn more, if you want to attend, go to mgma.com/leaders, where you can learn more, where you can register. And Dave and I look forward to seeing you there in Orlando. So until then, thank you so much for being MGMA podcast listeners.